It's a Sunday afternoon. Not particularly quiet, just the usual background noise. A TV playing something you're not really watching, a half-finished coffee on the table. Your phone lights up. A simple notification. Not from social media, not from work, from your finance app. You don't open it right away. There's no urgency, no anxiety either. Just a pause. Then you tap it. And for a moment, nothing feels different. No excitement, no sudden realization, just a number sitting there. 100,284. You stare at it for a few seconds. It feels oddly normal. Not life-changing, not dramatic, just another number. But something is different. Not in the number itself, but in how you're reacting to it. And this is where it gets interesting. Because most people think hitting $100,000 changes your life overnight. But it doesn't. At least, not in the way you expect. The next morning looks exactly the same. Alarm goes off, you get ready. Coffee, commute, work. Nothing about your routine has changed. Your salary is still the same. Let's say it's around $68,000 a year. After taxes, maybe around $4,200 a month. Rent takes $1,600. Utilities, internet, phone, another $300. Groceries hover around $400. Subscriptions, streaming, software, random apps, maybe $80. Car payment or transport, $450. Insurance, $200. And then everything else. Eating out, weekend plans, unexpected expenses. By the end of the month, there's usually something left. Maybe $600, sometimes less. And over time, that's how you got here. Not from one big decision, but from small, consistent ones. Saving a little, investing a little, spending mostly without thinking too much. It didn't feel like progress while it was happening, but now, somehow, it adds up to six figures. And yet, life doesn't feel six figures different. And most people don't notice this part, because the system that got you to $100,000 is still the same system you're living in. Same income structure, same expense patterns, same environment. Nothing externally has shifted. But internally, something subtle has started to change. Before, money felt like something you were chasing. Now, it feels like something that's quietly sitting in the background. Not enough to stop working, not enough to feel fully secure, but enough to create space. And that space is easy to miss because nothing forces you to notice it. This is where people assume the journey speeds up, but this is also where many people stall because the behaviors don't automatically change with the number, and the real shift happens later. Let's slow this down. $100,000 sounds like a lot, but in practical terms, it behaves very differently than people expect. If that money is invested and grows at, say, 7% annually, that's about $7,000 a year, roughly $580 a month. Not enough to replace income, but not nothing either. Now compare that to your monthly expenses, around $3,000 to $3,500. So the money you've built covers maybe 15 to 20% of your life, quietly, without you noticing day to day. And this is the hidden shift, because before this point, your life was entirely dependent on active income. Now, a small part of it isn't. And most people don't feel this change immediately, but it compounds. If that $100,000 becomes $150,000, then $200,000, the math starts to look different. But this is not financial advice. It's just a way to understand what's happening beneath the surface. Because the number itself isn't the milestone. The behavior behind it is. But here's where things get complicated. Because your environment hasn't changed. Your friends still spend the same way. Your workplace still operates the same way. Your expectations are still shaped by everything around you. So even with $100,000, life continues as if nothing happened. You still upgrade your phone, still go out on weekends, still justify small purchases because it's not that much. And individually, none of it matters, but collectively, it keeps you in the same rhythm. There's also a subtle pressure, not from others, but from yourself. Because once you reach a number like this, you expect to feel different, more secure, more in control. And when you don't, it creates a quiet confusion. This seems fine at first, but something changes because now you're aware that progress is possible, but also aware that it's slower than you thought. And that awareness is where most people either drift or adjust. Fast forward a few years. Nothing extreme happens. No financial crisis, no sudden windfall, just time passing. If habits stay the same, that $100,000 might become $120,000, maybe $140,000. Progress continues, but slowly, and life keeps demanding your time. Work schedules, deadlines, limited flexibility. Because even with 6 figures saved, you're still dependent on income, still trading time for stability. And that's not a problem. It's just the reality of this stage. But there's a subtle trade-off happening. The more your lifestyle grows, the less that $100,000 matters. Not because it disappears, but because your expenses rise around it. And this is the part most people don't talk about. The milestone doesn't lock in freedom. It introduces the possibility of it, but only if something else changes later. Now consider someone else. Same income range, similar lifestyle, but a slightly different way of thinking. They don't see $100,000 as an achievement, not exactly. They see it as a starting point, not emotionally, just structurally. Because from their perspective, money is less about spending power and more about time. They notice that $580 a month equivalent, not because it's large, but because it exists. They see it as a small reduction in dependence, a small increase in flexibility. And instead of asking, "What can I afford now?" they quietly start asking, "What does this remove for my future obligations?" It's a subtle shift, almost invisible, but over time it compounds differently. Not through effort alone, but through awareness. And this is where things quietly change. Because once you see money this way, the number stops being the focus, and the system behind it becomes clearer. Later that night, you're back in the same room, same couch, same quiet background noise. Your phone is on the table again, no new notifications this time. You open the finance app just out of habit. That number is still there, 100,284. It hasn't changed much, but something about it feels different now. Not bigger, not smaller, just clearer. It's not a finish line, not even close. It's more like a signal that something is working, even if life doesn't look different yet, even if nothing feels dramatically better. Because the real change isn't in the number, it's in how you start to see it and what you quietly do next. If this helped clarify things, consider subscribing.